Okay, everyone, welcome back. I'm going to get started with some meditation. So if you guys would like to join with meditation, we're going to do the same thing we did this morning with loving kindness meditation, where I'm not going to be guiding you on in the breathing mindfulness meditation. You can just know for yourself to focus on the breath. Whenever the mind moves off, cut that off, bring the mind back to the breath. I'll come in with the loving kindness guidance, okay? All right. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Bhutang Bhagavanahang Abhivateyami Savakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti Pisu Bhagava Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vichacharanang Sammuno Sakato Rokavitu Anutero Purisa Dhamma Sati Satatawa Manusarang Bhutto Bhagavati. Continuing to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. Repeat these affirmations in the mind on the out breath. May I be peaceful. May I be safe. May I be well. May I be free of all discontentedness and the suffering that it causes. May my family, friends, co-workers, and neighbors all be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness and the suffering that it causes. May all children be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. May all humans, wherever they reside, be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. May all animals, wherever they reside, be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. May all beings, wherever they reside, be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness and the suffering that it causes. Now return back to breathing mindfulness meditation, focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. Breathing in and out. อะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธภะคะวาโหตังมหาคะวันนังอภิวาเทมิสวากขาโตมหาคะวัตตาธัมโมธัมมังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหาคะวะโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมหาคะวะอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารณังสัมมุโนสกขาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาธัมมาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสนังโพโตภะคะวะติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Okay, so this meditation, I was doing some groups of individuals, right? Like children, humans, animals. I was doing this in order to help you guys see how you could do groups in your meditation, right? I mentioned that this loving kindness meditation is designed to help you eliminate your anger, your hatred, your ill will. I doubt any of you guys hate children, right? I doubt anybody has that in your mind, but you might get frustrated with them sometimes. You might get irritated or annoyed. That's the same thing. It's just a lesser version of it. So as long as you're having any of those kinds of things, you would like to use these kinds of meditations in order to help you. This loving kindness meditation will help you get rid of the stronger versions of anger, hatred, ill will, but also the lesser versions, even all the way down to a dislike. Like if you start a new job and there's a person you dislike, put them in your meditation for a little bit, right? If you have a new neighbor that moves in and you have dislike towards them, put them in your loving kindness meditation for a little bit. That's how you stamp this out, and don't allow it to get really rooted in your mind so that you don't have anger and hatred or ill will towards others. So you guys can customize this meditation based on your specific needs. I'm just doing really general stuff in order to help you guys see how to do this meditation, but you guys are going to need to look at your own mind and then customize this based on your specific needs. So do that as you're doing this on your own, okay? So this topic this afternoon is developing and maintaining relationships, choosing wholesome friends and a life partner. I'm going to be sharing this with you, and as always, you guys are more than welcome to ask any and all questions as we go. All you need to do here at the temple is use the microphones, and then For those of you guys online, you can put your questions into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or raise your hand in Zoom and ask any questions that you like. So in talking about this topic, as I've shared already, kind of leading up to this, the decisions that you make in life are going to produce either wholesome or unwholesome results. It's all about whether you make wise or unwise decisions. And if you make wise decisions about your friends and your life partner, it's going to produce wholesome results for you. But if you make unwise decisions about your friends and your life partner, this is going to produce unwholesome results for you. And you need to learn how to be able to do this without judgment. What judgment is judgment is where you're putting yourself above people or below people, and you're looking down on them, or you're trying to determine what is wholesome or unwholesome for other people. You're trying to determine who or what they're doing, whether it's either wholesome or unwholesome for them. That's where you're judging other people, and you might be thinking that someone else is good or bad based on judging various aspects of their life. That would be judgment. What discernment is where you have wise decision making. You can make wise decisions about what you choose to do in life without actually judging people. I'll give you an example of this, okay? Say that I grew up and I have this best friend who we've been best friends all the way since I'm 8 years old, right? And now we age and we get older, and now I'm 18, 19, 20, 25, 30. We've been friends all this time, but somewhere around 18, 20 years old, this person decided to start selling drugs, and they're selling illegal drugs. And I've always known that. This person knows I don't use drugs. They never offer them to me. They don't try to sell drugs to me, but I know that they sell drugs. They know that I know that they sell drugs. And now I'm choosing to spend time with this person. If I would like to, I can choose to move away from this relationship without judging this person, without looking down on them, without thinking that they're unwholesome, without degrading them or disparaging them in any particular way, just realizing that, hey, if I'm outside with a drug dealer walking down the street, it could be very possible for a rival drug dealer to start shooting bullets at this person. And the next thing I know, I'm getting shot and I'm getting killed. And this would be unwise. Or I could know that it's unwise to be in a car traveling with someone who has crystal methamphetamine, heroin, and cocaine in their bag. And now when the police pull us over, we're all going to get in trouble. Maybe they even slip it under my seat while I'm not looking, and I'm the one driving. And now next thing I know, I'm getting arrested for something I don't even do, right? So we can understand that there's wise decision-making and unwise decision-making, and the choices that we make about who we're with and what we're choosing to do is going to impact us. So we can choose to move on from relationships like this, realizing that it's unwise to be in that relationship, but at the same time, not judging that person for what they're choosing to do. If they're choosing to do that, that's on them. But for a wise choice for yourself, you can know that it's unwise to be in the situation, and you can choose to move on. So that's what I'm going to help you guys do, is understand how to look at situations with friends or a life partner and decide, how would you like to make decisions around your friendships and your life partner? So because I don't know who's going to be in any particular talk or another, and people online can be coming in at any time, this is the first one for pretty much all of these discussions that I'm sharing with you, which is acquire wisdom. You need to acquire wisdom, right? A lot of you guys have been here all the way throughout the week, and every single presentation, every single talk I'm saying acquire wisdom, acquire wisdom. And that's because people who are joining, I never know who's going to be in the class. So it's important that everybody understands that in order for you to accomplish anything on this journey in the path to enlightenment, you need to acquire wisdom. So you need to be able to learn and grow and develop mainly that Eightfold Path, but all the other teachings that are part of our foundational courses and all the other retreats and everything. You're going to need to acquire more and more wisdom. This is just one course of many that you're going to need to learn in order to be able to cultivate your wisdom. So there's lots of different wisdom on the path to enlightenment that you're going to need to learn. So in order to choose wholesome friends and a life partner, you're going to need to acquire wisdom. So this first part that I'm going to talk to you about, it's about friends and a life partner. But then when we get towards the end, I'm going to focus in on a life partner and talk to you about certain things to consider in terms of selecting a life partner. So the first thing to understand is that this is a detail in the foundational class and courses and programs, is that this natural law of karma is cause and effect, or action and result. It's the results of your decisions. It's affecting you whether you're aware of it or not. It's not anything mystical or magical. It's not punishments and rewards. It's not some being controlling this to decide who gets punished and who gets rewarded. It's nothing nothing like that. It's just cause and effect, or action and result. There's some decision that's being made, and there's going to be some result as according to that. And this natural law is going to be affecting us whether we're aware of it or not. So it's your life, your decisions, and your results. And you're the only one that can create karma for yourself. Nobody else can create karma for you. So it's not like you can spend time with your friends and they're rubbing off their bad karma on you. But if you're around unwholesome friends, it's your choice to be around that person. So if I was around that person who's selling drugs and I get shot and killed, that's my decision, that I chose to be around this person. I'm making an unwise decision. That's a result of my decision. That's my karma, that I chose to be around this person. So while this natural law of karma affects all of us, and it's your life, your decisions, and your results, and you being around friends and a life partner, they can't create karma for you. It's your decision to be their friend, or it's your decision to have them as your life partner. And that's the decision that's affecting you. And that's why it's so important that you make wise decisions about who to spend time with as friends or have as a life partner. Because if you choose wisely, it's going to produce wholesome results. And if you choose unwisely, it'll produce unwholesome results. So what you choose to do and who you choose to involve in your life, it matters, right? Because any choices that you make, you're going to be impacted by it. I'll just give you a simple example. Let's just say that through the dating process, you are with a partner. Maybe they're using drugs and alcohol. Maybe you see them lying and stealing. Maybe you see them being disrespectful and degrading and diminishing to other people, but they've never treated you that way. And now let's just say 6 months, a year into the relationship, maybe they start stealing from you. Maybe they start being negative and degrading and disparaging to you. Well, you saw that they were doing that at the beginning of the relationship to other people, but you continued in the relationship. And this is the results of your decisions, that they're being negative and degrading and disparaging to you. So it's not that they're rubbing their karma off on you. It's that your choice to continue in that relationship is producing the result that you're around somebody who's being negative, degrading, and disparaging. So who you choose to involve in your life, it really matters. But you would like to do this in a way based in wisdom or discernment versus judging other people. The Buddha has this discourse, this simile that he shares. It's called the snake that passes through feces. What he says is this snake might pass through feces and it'll smear you, but it doesn't bite you. Right? So what he's talking about here is he's talking about friends, and he has this long discourse where he describes this whole story of a snake that passes through feces, and he says the snake will smear you, but it won't bite you. This is the example that I gave with if you have a friend who's selling drugs and you go out in the car with them and you get pulled over by the police, maybe they slip some drugs under your chair, and now the police search the car and you're going to jail, right? So this snake, it hasn't bit you, but it actually smeared you, right? So now your reputation gets smeared. You have this criminal record. So the Buddha advises you all throughout his teachings to select wholesome people to be around. Because what you're going to notice is that when you have wholesome people in your life, your mind's going to tend to lean in that direction. And when you have unwholesome people in your life, your mind's going to tend to lean in that direction too, right? So depending on who you cultivate in the relationships around you, your mind's going to lean in a certain direction. So when you come to places like this, you tend to meet a lot of people that are into wholesome things. But there's other places you might go where maybe if we went to a bar or a nightclub, not that we're looking down on those things because I did all those things, right? But if we go to those kinds of places, we're going to meet people that are into other types of things. They're not necessarily into wholesome things. And now we're going to be leaning in that direction, using drugs and alcohol. So where you go and who you associate with and who you involve in your life matters. And this analogy or the simile of the snake that passes through feces, that it'll smear you, but it won't bite you, will help you to understand this, that you would like to ensure that you're not having any snakes or anybody who's smearing you with feces as part of the relationships that you're in. So they might bite you, or they might not bite you, but they'll smear you with the feces. One of the things that you can use as a guide where you're not judging people, you're just looking at wisdom, is the 5 precepts. If you studied these with me, in Volume 1, Chapter 7, the Buddha teaches the 5 precepts. And sometimes people think that the Buddha taught no lying, no stealing, no sexual misconduct, no no killing, no stealing, no sexual misconduct, no lying, and no intoxicants. This isn't actually the teachings of the Buddha. If you've been exposed to that, that sounds like black and white. It sounds like a bunch of rules. The Buddha didn't actually teach that way. So in volume 1, chapter 7, I share the original words of the Buddha on the 5 precepts. And then I teach it to people using his original words. And then I show you how to apply it to your day-to-day life today in modern times. So if you haven't learned the 5 precepts with me, you're going to need to learn that in the book. And then also you can see the recordings or any of the classes that I've taught on the 5 precepts, because there's a lot more there than just no killing, no stealing, no sexual misconduct, no lying, no intoxicants. The Buddha never taught this way. It sounds like black and white. It sounds like a bunch of rules and commandments. He didn't teach like that. He gives you much more illuminating language than that. That's going to help you to understand these precepts and why it's important to practice them. But ultimately, they do boil down to it's unwise to kill. But he doesn't say preserve all life at all cost, right? There's going to be some situations where, like me and my wife, we had termites at our house, right? If we didn't take care of these termites, it wouldn't be living compassionately for the welfare of all living beings. And that's what he actually teaches you as part of that precept, is to live compassionately for the welfare of all living beings. He doesn't teach you to preserve all life at all costs and never kill. That's not what he's teaching you. So what we did is we researched on the internet to see if there was a way that we could eradicate these termites without killing them. We realized that we couldn't, so we needed to bring somebody in to take care of this, because it wouldn't be living compassionately for all living beings if we allowed these beings to eat our house, and then we would be out of a house and we wouldn't have a shelter, right? So there's things like this that you need to look at more closely, and the Buddha gives you much more illuminating language than this. But ultimately, there's a part where he's talking about it would be unwise to kill and steal, and yes, have sexual misconduct, but he explains what that is in a lot of detail. He explains about false speech. He talks about taking substances that cause heedlessness and things like this, again, with much more illuminating language. And the more that you understand this, when you're having friendships and you're having interest in having a life partner, you can use this as a basis to understand whether it would be wise to include this person in your life or not. Because while you'll understand the natural laws through something like the 5 precepts, it's essentially teaching you the natural law of karma, of cause and effect. These natural laws show up in many different teachings. We all kind of learned growing up some of these various things. So while other people aren't necessarily studying the teachings of the Buddha, they have learned these things in other places, maybe Christianity, or maybe grandma and grandpa, or mom or dad, or something like this. So when you're looking at somebody's life, if you know that it's unwise for you to lie, for example, and you know that's unwise, and you know it's going to produce problems in your life, well, if you start having friends or a life partner, you're considering these people as friends or life partner, potentially a life partner, and you're noticing that they're lying and they're continually lying, you know that that's going to cause you difficulties. Because if you have a life partner who's constantly lying to you, how could you guys ever build up a real life together, right? So you can use these 5 precepts for your own life to guide your own life and understanding the natural law of karma, but you can use it for discernment or wise decision-making about who to involve in your life. If you know that it's unwise to take substances that cause heedlessness, but yet this person who you're going out on dates with is regularly showing up drunk or intoxicated or things like this, then you know that this is unwise for you to associate with this, because this is what you're going to be dealing with if you guys actually take your relationship forward. So even though they might be handsome or beautiful, even though they might be rich or intellectually very interesting to spend time with, or whatever it is that your mind's looking at that you enjoy about being around them, you've got to look at the true reality that they're making unwise decisions when it comes to their own moral conduct. And when they're making unwise decisions about their own moral conduct, your choice to be their friend or your choice to be their life partner, it's going to affect you. That's your karma. So you need to be able to use discernment or wise decision-making of these natural laws to decide whether or not it would be wise to include this person in your life or not. And you can use the 5 precepts as a baseline, that if somebody's at least not practicing the 5 precepts, it wouldn't be wise to associate with this individual. Whereas if somebody's lying and stealing and cheating on their partners, and they're having substances that cause heedlessness, that's all going to affect them. It's going to produce unwholesome results. But if you choose to be their friend or a life partner with them, it's now going to start affecting you. So again, we're not judging these people. We're not looking down on them. We don't think they're bad people, because I don't know about you guys, but I've done all those things, right? All those same things, I've done them all, right? So not looking down on them or judging them as a bad person, but just realizing it would be unwise to associate in that kind of situation. So these 5 precepts, because they're part of the natural laws, they show up in a lot of different teachings, and people can learn them in different ways. And while they might not be calling them the 5 precepts, you understand them that way, and you can look at it in this way. Okay, so this is kind of like a guide for you, not only for your own life, but whether or not it would be wise to have someone as your friend or have someone as a life partner. You can use the 5 precepts as a baseline minimum. It's important to understand that wholesome friends, what I'm referring to as wholesome friends, equals wise friends. If you have friends that are wise about these natural laws, again, they can show up in many different places. I've had people come and talk to me that they said, hey, I just got out of this business seminar about communication and marketing. And what the Buddha teaches about right speech was all throughout the entire seminar of the business seminar that I took for 3 days, right? They were like, what the Buddha taught with right speech is essentially the same thing that I learned in those 3 days, right? So you can find people that are actually learning these natural laws in different ways through different mentors and different experiences. So it doesn't mean that they're necessarily Buddhist. You can spend time with anybody and everybody that you would like to spend time with. They don't have to necessarily be studying these teachings to be a wise individual. They can actually cultivate wisdom in many different ways. So look for people that are wise and that are understanding about life and how to make wise decisions and about their moral conduct and the way that they interact with people. If you have friends or a life partner who understands what non-attachment is and non-clinging, this can be really helpful, because if someone's clinging to you and holding on to you, they're going to be very needy and they're going to be holding on to you very tight, and it's going to sabotage the relationship and crush it, right? So you would like people to understand that that's not the best way to be able to have a great relationship. So if people are very clingy to you and holding on very tight from the very beginning, you would like to be able to look at that and realize, like, maybe this isn't the best relationship to get into. Because if they're clinging to you and they're holding on to you, they're going to be really happy and excited when they're around you. And you might like that. You might be like, wow, this person enjoys being around me so much. This is so great. But you don't see the other side of that when you're away, they're going to be miserable, they're going to be grumpy, they're going to be irritable, they're going to be blaming you for their painful feelings. Why haven't you come to visit me? Why aren't you spending time with me? Why haven't you called me? Why didn't you answer my text message? Right? You're going to start hearing all these things over and over and over again. So if someone's really needy and really grabby, you would like to pay attention to that because that's going to cause difficulties in your relationship, either as a friend or as a life partner. If you notice that people are starting to cling to you, there's actually things you can do. So it's not just that, okay, somebody's starting to cling to you, somebody's starting to grab onto you, somebody's starting to be attached to you, so you just go away from them. That's one side or the other, right? Like, I'm teaching you this middle way. There's this middle way. Like, say you meet somebody at the mall and you're like sitting down in the food court, you guys chat it up, you have some common interest, you exchange information, and then you leave, and then like 2 hours later, they're texting you, right? And then they text you again, and then they text you again, and you haven't replied back to them. If you're noticing that they're bombarding you with texts, don't reply to them right away. Right? You can put a day or 2 or 3 between your texts. Sometimes people think if someone texts you, you got to reply to them right away. Well, if they're writing you and you get used to replying right away and they get used to replying right away, they're getting those pleasant feelings every time they talk to you. And now you're just reinforcing that. And you're like feeding the monster. This monster of craving in their mind is just going to grow and grow and grow and grow. So at the very beginning of relationships, it's usually good to space out your communication and space out your time together, where you're not constantly spending time with each other and you're not constantly texting each other. You can put some space between this. So you will find people that'll be very clingy and they'll be getting attached to you very early on. And it doesn't mean you just push the relationship away and you walk away. What you can do is you can put space and time between your text messages. Or say you've had a friend for 2 or 3 months and then everything's been fine, they haven't seen any clinging, but let's just say at some point they write you and then you're really busy with something and you haven't written them back. And then it's been 6 hours and they write you like, where are you? Why haven't you written back to my text? I'm so worried about you. Like, you might think this is their care, but this is actually their craving, desire, attachment. I'm sure they have love in there. I'm sure they care about you, but that's their craving because they're worried about you because you haven't texted them in 6 hours. Well, if you reply right back to them and be like, oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't send a message back to you, this is reinforcing the clinging and the craving. If you get one of those messages, it's better to just wait. Just keep waiting until their mind lets go. You might need to wait another day or two before you even reply. If you reply right away, you're just going to reinforce the craving. And you might think you're doing the best thing there because their mind's worried and let me send them a message and let them know I'm okay. But really all you're doing is you're allowing the craving to stay intact. What you would like to do is help them get free of that craving, because once they get rid of that craving, they won't worry about you anymore. And they can just love you and they can just have a great relationship with you without worrying. So sometimes what you're taught and what your mind might be conforming to is that if somebody writes you a message and says, I'm worried about you, where are you? That you might reply back to them right away. Like, oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't reply back to you. All this is an expectation. This is a craving that they have. They wanted you to reply within 1 hour or 2 hours, and you haven't done that. So now they're worried, right? This is their own mind doing that. You're not going to solve that by replying back to them. What you would like to do is distance yourself a little bit, maybe a day or two, and then reply back. And they say, oh, I was so worried. What happened? Oh, it's just, I was busy doing other things. Right? You don't have to have any big explanation about what you were doing. And then more and more, as you start putting more and more space between your messages back to them, their mind will eventually let go. So where you see people clinging and grabbing onto you, you need to be able to put space in between that, because as soon as you allow a relationship to have attachment, that's the sabotaging of the relationship. That at some point you guys are going to be discontent with each other. And at some point the relationship's going to get so discontent, you guys are going to split up and you're going to separate potentially, right? So if you allow attachment in your relationships, it's going to actually sabotage them. So early on, if you start seeing any kind of attachment, or even 2 or 3 or 6 months later into the relationship, if you start seeing people get clingy with you, you would like to start doing things where you allow their mind to be able to let go. And you don't have to tell them. You don't have to say, look, you are clinging to me. Stop clinging to me, right? Because this isn't going to work, because they don't understand what it means and they're not going to understand how to let go of it. So what you do is you do something that's skillful, which is, that they're going to have to distance themselves. You're going to have to put some space between the times that you guys have contact with each other. And that's what's going to help their mind to let go. So you can just create an environment which allows their mind to let go. You don't have to tell them what you're doing. You don't have to get permission from them to do it. Just put some more and more space between your contact to allow their mind to let go. And this is a skillful way to help somebody to eliminate their attachment to you. And then when they eliminate their attachment to you, you'll have a wonderful relationship where they're not grabbing at you and clinging to you and pulling you and these kinds of things. Okay, so it's unwise to let others cling to you. Having people that understand true love is really helpful, whether it's friends or a life partner. We've talked about that in this course, because the more they understand true love, the more they're going to be able to practice it, and the more they're going to be able to experience your love. I had a girl one time who was in class that I learned true love with me, and she came up to me afterwards and she said, I think I just made a big mistake. I said, why? She said, I just broke up with my boyfriend and I think he was practicing true love with me and I didn't even know it. And I said, why? What happened? She said, well, I had this boyfriend. He was always so nice. He was so friendly. He was kind and loving. And I would go to my friend's house or my parents' house and I would invite him and he wouldn't come. He would say, oh, you go have fun. I'm going to stay over here and do this. But when you're done, we can hang out afterwards. And he was just completely comfortable with her going to do things on her own. And she thought that he didn't love her. right? Because he wouldn't go with her. She wanted him to go every single time. Sometimes he would go and sometimes he wouldn't go. And she thought he had to go every single time. And that's what love was. That's the craving, desire, attachment masquerading as love. And she broke up with this guy because she thought that he didn't love her. When in reality, he was practicing true love and she just didn't know it. She didn't understand it, right? So if you understand true love, not only will you be able to practice it and you'll be able to identify it when it's coming back to you, that if you have a life partner or you have a friend that's completely comfortable with you doing whatever it is that you would like to do and you make decisions and they're completely comfortable with that, that's wonderful, right? But if you have someone putting their expectations on you, trying to control you, trying to force you to do things their way, that's the craving and the clinging. So you would like to have someone that understands true love and understand when people are missing you, when they're grieving, when they're sorrowful, when they're worried about you. This isn't the love. I'm sure they might have love in there, but that's not the love that's causing that. So you need to be very skillful at seeing when people tell you that they're so worried about you or things like that, that you understand that that's their attachment. They're letting you know, I am attached to you, and they're getting discontent when you're doing whatever. So they're not a bad person. They haven't done anything wrong. You would like to just create an environment that you can step away and their mind can let go. And then more and more they can learn about true love and they can practice true love. All relationships need politeness, kindness, friendliness, and respect. That's a baseline minimum in order for a relationship to be successful. If those things don't exist in a relationship, it's not going to be successful. But it's important that you understand that the only person who can be polite, kind, friendly, respectful 100% of the time is an enlightened being. So if you are in a relationship, either with friends or with life partners, they're going to be impolite, unkind, unfriendly, and disrespectful. But what you would like to be able to see is that that person takes responsibility for their disrespect, for their impoliteness. You shouldn't expect it. You shouldn't require it from them. You shouldn't want it. But if this person is blaming you for their impolite, unkind, unfriendly, and disrespect, it means that they're not understanding that it's coming from their own mind. So if early on in a relationship, someone's very disrespectful, it might be best to just end the relationship and move on. But if you've got a good friend who you guys have been friends for a year or so, and every once in a while they do something that's impolite, it's understandable, right? And you would like to just be patient with that and don't apologize to them for their disrespect, because sometimes people feel they're justified in their impoliteness and in their disrespect. And if you apologize to them, like, oh, I'm so sorry I did that, now you're reinforcing wrong view. Because if they get angry and they get mad and you apologize to them for their anger, you're just reinforcing with them that you caused their anger. And now they're going to keep thinking that you're the one that's causing them all these painful feelings. So when somebody's angry and bitter and harsh or hostile, the best thing to do is just walk away and help them to be able to see that they're the ones who are angry, not you. Right? So you're going to see these kinds of things where people are impolite, unkind, unfriendly, and disrespectful. But the more that you are polite, kind, friendly, and respectful, the more people are going to be that way with you. And you can build your relationship on these fundamental building blocks that every relationship needs. The Buddha gives this great teaching where he talks about, in order to have a healthy relationship, you need to have these things right here. He says that you need to practice generosity or giving. Right? So with your friends, with your family members, with your life partners, you need to be giving and practice generosity. So even now, my wife and I have been together for 17 years or so. I practice generosity with her. I'm at the market. I'm buying some food for myself. I see some avocados because I know she likes avocados and they're kind of rare in Thailand. So I buy a couple of avocados and I bring them home and I practice some generosity with her, right? These are the kind of things that we do from time to time. So you guys would like to do this, is practice generosity in your relationships with each other, your friends, your family, your coworkers, your life partners. You would like to practice generosity. He also talks about endearing speech. This is the way that you speak, using right speech, that you speak in ways that is endearing, loving and kind and warm with each other. And then he talks about beneficent conduct or moral conduct. You learn that as part of right speech and right action, about how to not cause harm through your moral conduct. And then he talks about equality, that all of us are equal. This is where, if you ever see anybody saying that the Buddha taught that women are less of a person, it's not true. He taught equality in relationships, whether it's male female or male male or female female. He taught equality in all of our relationships, and that's what's going to promote healthy relationships. So these are the things that the Buddha teaches that would be wise for you to be able to have healthy relationships, is practicing generosity, endearing speech, beneficent conduct or moral conduct, and equality in your relationships. Then something to keep in mind is eliminate confrontation. That if you have confrontation in your relationships where you guys are coming together and you're confronting them or creating conflict, and you're saying things like, I can't be your friend because of all these reasons, this is just listing out all your reasons of why you have cravings, desires, attachments, and expectations, and you can't be this person's friend. So you would like to be able to be friends with everybody and anybody, that you don't have dislike or annoyment to anybody. And in situations where you're going to your friends and you're downloading all these reasons why you can't be their friend, this is just listing out all your cravings, desires, attachments. So if you'd like to move on from a relationship, just move on from the relationship. You don't have to go download all the reasons why you're not going to be friends with this person. And we talked about this the other day, and I shared that details with you the other day. Some more information for you is do not assume that you know the full story. Just like with children, when you're around children, when you're interacting with children, they're not necessarily going to tell you the full story. They might not necessarily remember the full story. The same thing is true with your friends, right? I'll give you an example of this. My wife, she does massage, and ever since we've first been together, she's done massage. Since she's 9 years old, she's been doing massage. So for 41 years, she's been doing massage. And when we first met, I helped her to set up a little massage business in our apartment in Arlington, Virginia. And I would come home from work and she would have food for me, and I would come home from work and we would have great conversations and all these kinds of things. But every once in a while she would have a client. I would come home early, right? But I didn't necessarily know when she would have clients and stuff like this. And there was one particular day that she wasn't working. She was off work. She wasn't supposed to be working. And I came home and I saw a pair of shoes in the front area of the house, and I heard a bunch of laughing and giggling in the room. Well, when I first walked in, I was like, whoa, what is going on here, right? Well, come to find out, she ended up having a client call her. This person had a problem. She invited him over. She decided to work anyway, and she took this client. But if I thought I had the full story, I might have thought that she was cheating on me. I might have barged into the room all angry and hostile and bitter and upset. So you're not always going to know the full story in some situations. You're going to need to ask questions. You're going to need to be patient in these kinds of situations. So don't ever assume that you know the full story. Being a good problem solver is really helpful, because that's what you like to do in relationships, is be a good problem solver. By the time you get to enlightenment, you'll be an excellent problem solver, because you've solved the very best or the very biggest, most impactful problem that you've ever had, which is your own discontent feelings. And you're going to need to be a very good problem solver. There's certain problems that you're going to encounter from day to day. And in the unenlightened state, we look at things as a problem. But by the time you train your mind and you're awakening more and more, you won't look at things as a problem. It's just a challenge. There's just a certain challenge that you're facing. There's certain wisdom that you may or may not have, and you would like to be able to cultivate wisdom and apply your wisdom to this situation so that then you can actually solve it. So if you're experiencing certain challenges in your day-to-day life, just figure out, how do I solve this? Because anything that's going on, it's just impermanence, whatever's happening, and it's a matter of applying wisdom to be able to solve that issue. So as you're working with friends and you're looking for a life partner, look for people that are good problem solvers, because you're going to need to be a good problem solver, and so are your friends and your life partner. Because as you've heard me share before, it's not, meet, fall in love, get married, and live happily ever after. That's not the way that it actually works. You guys are going to need to solve various problems together as you're going forward in your relationships, either as friends or as a life partner. Take your time. There's no hurry to acquire friends or a life partner. Sometimes we're in a hurry. We feel like if we have 50 friends, we're better. And if we only have 3 friends, then maybe we're not so likable. Or, if we hurry up and get to have a life partner and get married and have children, somehow we're more accomplished. But just take your time. There's no rush. The important thing is that you make wise decisions about who you include in your life, both friends and life partner as well. It's helpful to look at how people treat others. If you're going out with friends or you're going out with a potential life partner, look at how they treat taxi drivers. Look at how they treat food servers. Look at how they treat their mom and their dad and their brothers and their sisters. And listen to how they talk about these people. If you're spending time with somebody and they're constantly complaining about their mom and dad, or they're constantly complaining about their brothers and sisters, you're going to be the next person that they're complaining about. If they're complaining about their ex-boyfriends and girlfriends, you're going to be the next one that they're complaining about. What they're telling you when they're complaining about all these other people is they're telling you that they haven't figured out how to have healthy relationships yet. That's what they're telling you. You might be sitting there and like, they're just listening to all these complaints, and you might be sympathizing with them like, it's so bad that their mom treated them that way, or it's so unfortunate that their sister treats them that way. What they're telling you is that they haven't figured out how to have healthy relationships yet. So if you're around someone who's constantly complaining about the people around them, they're blaming other people for their problems, and you're going to be the next person that they blame. Right now, you guys might be on good footing because you just met and you're in that honeymoon phase. But once you get over that honeymoon phase, you're going to be the next person that they're complaining about. So pay attention to those kinds of things. It's important to know that you're not in relationships in order to please others. Sometimes people think that that's the goal of their relationship, is to please others, that we should please our mom with our choice of a partner, or we should please our dad or our brothers and sisters with our choice of a partner. Well, if that was the case, I would have never got married, because every girlfriend that I brought home, my family didn't like any of them. It didn't matter who they were, what they looked like, how they talked, how educated they were, anything else. They didn't like anybody from the very beginning, right? So you're not here to please others. Your parents have made their choices. Your brothers and sisters make their choices about their life, and you get to make your choices about your life. So your choice of partner is just based on you. It's not based on everyone else, because you're the one living your life, not the other people. So don't think that your choice in a partner is to please other people, okay? It's your life, your decision, and your results. Always leave space for growth, because whoever you meet and whoever you spend time with, either as a friend or a life partner, they're going to change. My wife, now 17 years later, she's not the same person she was when I met her. Not in a good way, not in a bad way necessarily, but she's just different. She's not the same person. Her mind's the same. She's still got the same mind, and her mind's grown and evolved, and she's become even better with her mind. But the same qualities that I saw in her when we first got together are the same things that I see now. One of the things that attracted me to her when I first met her is there was this situation where she could have lied, and I probably would have never known. And it might have even been to her advantage to lie, but she didn't lie. She actually told me the truth, and I was very attracted to that early on. And she's been very honest with me all the way through our entire relationship. I don't know of a time that she's ever really lied to me. I don't know any times, right? So this is this quality that was in her mind when I first met her, and it's still there today. And I've seen other qualities, but she is a different person than when I first met her. So if I'm clinging to that certain appearance or certain physical appearance or other aspects of our life, then I wouldn't be able to continue to have a great relationship with her. So like when we first got together, she was unemployed and I was a business person and I had lots of money. So when I would come home, she would be at home cooking and I would walk in and she'd have 5 dishes. There was so many food on the table. I actually couldn't even put a plate on the table. There was so much food. So during that period of time, she could cook, she could clean, she could do laundry, she could do all these kinds of things. And it was wonderful. I had this new partner. But then as times changed, she wasn't able to do those things anymore, right? When we had a kid, when she started working, when we moved to Thailand. So if I thought that those things were the love and I was clinging to that as part of the love, then when those things changed, I would feel like the love is gone. Or on her side, like when she first met me, I had a lot more money, and now I don't have that at all. She has her own money. She does her own thing. Whereas if she was clinging to the money that I was providing for the family, as we changed and as my life changed, she would have been able to feel, she wouldn't feel like she still loves me if she thought that the love was the money. So your partner is going to change, and you're going to need to be comfortable with those changes. So if you leave space for growth in your life partnerships, and the same thing with your friends, that they are going to be different people as they change, and as time goes on, these changes are not a bad thing. Right. One time I had a student when I was teaching Thai massage that I taught her Thai massage in like 2005. And we talked again in like 2012, like 7 years later. And she said, David, I don't think I can talk to you anymore. I said, oh, yeah, why? She said, I've heard that you have changed so much. You are not the same person that taught me 7 years ago. And I said, oh, okay, bye-bye. Right? Of course, I'm not the same person that taught her 7 years ago. There's been 7 years of growth and change and development. I'm not the same person that taught her 7 years ago. I do things differently now. And if you're clinging to those things, then you're going to feel like you can't be friends with this person 7 years later. So people are going to change in your life, and that's okay. That's impermanence. Okay? So leave space for growth. Okay, any questions on those? Those are things about having friends and a life partner. Any things there? No? Okay. Let me check this. Okay, no questions. Okay, so now we're going to go into just a couple of things specifically for a life partner. This doesn't apply to friends, but it's for a life partner. Understand that the perfect partner doesn't exist. Okay, sometimes we have this idea in our mind of this perfect person, and we're looking for that perfect person. That person only exists in your mind, right? That person doesn't actually exist. Prince Charming and Princess Charming, they don't actually exist. Sometimes we think that this partner is going to solve all of our problems. They're going to make us feel whole. If we can find that special soulmate, they're going to solve everything in our life. And then you meet that person, and 6 months later, you guys are struggling because you realize that this person that you thought was Prince Charming or Princess Charming, you realize that they're actually struggling in life just as much as you are. They're having the craving, they're having anger, they're having ignorance or unknowing of true reality. And if you cast all your dreams and wishes and aspirations onto this person and think that they're actually going to solve all your life difficulties, you're actually setting yourself up to fail. You're sabotaging your ability to have a successful relationship because this person is struggling in life just like you are, right? So you need to be able to understand that the perfect partner doesn't exist. They're not going to make you feel whole. They're not going to complete you. They're not going to make you feel happy. That's not the role of a partner. So if you keep that in mind from the very beginning, then you'll know to not set your mind up that way, to maybe sabotage your ability to have a healthy relationship with someone who would like to be a partner with you, that you can grow and learn and develop and share life with each other and help each other through life. That's what a real partnership is. It's helpful to develop skills long before marriage, that you guys learn how to do problem solving together, and you learn how to discuss problems, and you learn how to disagree with each other. Because as you go through life with a life partner, you're going to have sometimes that you agree and sometimes that you disagree. So in the dating process, if you guys are learning how to have good discussions, and in some cases you're going to agree, in some cases you're going to disagree, this is actually really helpful to build that into the dating process. Even though for us, I think most of us, we might think about it as the dating time. Here in Thailand, they think of it in a completely different way. And I think it's really helpful to think of it in this way. So I'll share it with you. What they share is, or what they think here in Thailand is, they don't call it a dating period. They call it a learning period, that you're learning each other. You're learning this other person and trying to decide whether or not you guys can live a happy life with each other. So 3 months, 6 month period, you're actually learning this other person and kind of learning the types of things that they do and how they interact and what this person's all about. And they're learning you too. So in this learning process, not a dating process, but this learning process. If you guys learn how to problem solve with each other, you learn how to agree, and you also learn how to disagree politely and respectfully. And that's okay that you guys can disagree with each other sometimes. This will be really helpful for your life partnership. It's helpful to know that official marriage isn't required in order to love somebody for the rest of your life and to be in a relationship with each other for the rest of your life. You can get officially married, and in some countries it's actually advantageous to do so for tax purposes and other things like this. But some places you don't actually need that, and you don't need it in order to love somebody for the rest of your life. So here in Thailand, it's only about 20% of the people that are officially married. There's plenty of people that live together and they're considered to be husband and wife, but they're not officially married. Because getting married, all you do is you go down to the government office, you take like 30 minutes and you sign a bunch of documents, and then, okay, we're officially married. But there isn't any benefit associated with that. Basically, you can have the same name. That's about it. There's no tax purposes to do that. There's no other reason. You're just kind of informing the government that this is now my husband or this is my wife. So here in Thailand, people do get married from time to time, but the more what you see is you see like a cultural ceremony where traditionally two families are coming together and they have a ceremony together to acknowledge this relationship. But legally, they actually don't even really do much. Some people do, some people don't. So I was legally married when I was in America. The first time I was married to a Thai wife, we ended up getting a divorce, and that was important. That was helpful for me to be able to do that. I learned a lot in that relationship. And then I got legally married to my current wife too. But then there was a period of time where we decided to officially get divorced and no longer have a legal marriage in place. Because when I got legally married, I noticed that I became very complacent in the relationship and things didn't go so well. And when we actually signed our divorce papers, our relationship got better. We actually live together and we consider each other husband and wife, and so does the community. Like if you went around our village, people would tell you like, yeah, they're married. That's their husband and wife. But legally, we're actually not married. And that works for us. That doesn't mean it's going to work for everybody, but it works for us because both of us know that we're together because we're interested to be together. We care about each other, and we can just pick up our bags and we can leave at any time. Where before, when we were officially married, in the back of my mind is like, yeah, I got her. She's not getting out of here easy, right? Like she's going to have to go through a whole lot of trouble to get out of here, right? So I kind of got complacent because then when things went a little bit bad, I didn't really solve it right away. I got complacent. Where now, if you know that other person can pick up their bags and leave at any time, you're a little bit more vigilant and diligent in the relationships. At least I am. But again, there's some people that would prefer to be officially married and it's advantageous for them. So maybe you decide to do that. Everybody's going to make different choices for themselves, but just know that you don't need an official marriage in order to love each other for the rest of your life and have a wonderful life together. It's not the end all be all. Okay. And then just a few more things here that this is the thing that I've said so far, but I've got it written out here, that there's no such thing as living happily ever after. Okay. Instead, it is meet each other, learn each other, work on developing skills and abilities to solve challenges with each other, learn to communicate, learn to have discussions, learn to be friends, learn to not want anything from each other, learn to be interested in seeing your partner be well and succeed, support, encourage, and motivate each other to accomplish whatever they'd like to accomplish without putting any expectations or controlling conduct into the relationship. And then you will live happily ever after, right? So it's all these things first, then there's the happily ever after, okay? So me and my wife, we've been together for 17 years, but we've only been happily together for about 5. It took us a while, 5 or 6 years, right? It took us about 11 years to figure it all out, right? And we were doing all these things. This is what we were doing. We met each other. We learned each other. We worked on developing skills and abilities to solve challenges with each other. We learned to communicate. We learned to have discussions. We learned to be friends. We learned to not want anything from each other. We learned to be interested in seeing each other be well and succeed. We support, encourage, and motivate each other to accomplish whatever it is that we'd like to accomplish without putting expectations or controlling conduct on each other. And now we live happily ever after, right? We don't argue anymore. It's been a very long time since we've argued or been upset or bitter, or hostile or harsh with each other. But it wasn't like that always, right? Because we were figuring all this stuff out. And the main thing we needed to figure out was our own craving, our own desire, and our own attachment. We had to eliminate those, right? So this is what you can do to be able to get to the point where you do live happily ever after. Spending time with each other during the learning period, doing different activities. Because when you are dating or when you're learning each other, you might show up to the person's house. You guys might go to the movies, you go to dinner, you go do things. Maybe you go have some intimate contact somewhere, right? And then you kind of like drop each other off at the house, and then you go off and do your own things, right? And then you go on another date, you go to the movies, you go to the park, you go somewhere else, you do that, and you drop each other off, and then you go do something else. And you get used to this dating process of always spending time with each other. But then at some point, you might move in with each other, and now they're just around, right? And you're just around, right? Or you get married and they're just around. It's no longer dating, right? You're not going out on dates necessarily. So even in this process, when you're first getting together, it's helpful to do things together, but yet you're doing them separately. What I mean by this is, like, let's just say your potential life partner, your boyfriend or girlfriend, comes over to your house and you guys are going to watch a movie. Okay, so you watch a movie, right? And now after the movie, maybe one person goes into the one room and reads a book, and another person goes somewhere else and does something else, but yet you're in the same place together. This can be really helpful for you guys to learn that you're doing something together, meaning you're spending time together, but yet you're doing separate things, because this is what you're going to be doing by the time you get married anyway. You're just going to be hanging out at the house, and they're going to be off doing one thing and you're going to be off doing something else. Whereas if you get so used to always spending time together in this dating process, that when you're away from each other like that, but yet you're in the same place, it can feel somewhat awkward. So if you spend time doing separate things, but yet you're spending time together, this can help you by the time you get to the moving in process and the marriage and all those other kinds of things, if you choose to do that stuff. Changes will occur to each other's appearance and to other things like this. If you crave that youthful person that you met when you were 20 or 30 years old, as you age and it's 25, 30 years later and the gray hair and the wrinkles and the fat and all these other things come in, you might be looking like, I got to get rid of this partner and go get a younger one, right? You're not comfortable with that impermanence. So understand the impermanence is going to happen, and that's okay, right? If you cling to that youthful appearance of the person that you were with when you were younger, as you guys age, you're going to be uncomfortable with this. So understand you're both aging, and you guys are going to look different, and that's okay. That's just impermanence. Okay, so any questions on any of that stuff? Yep.
I have a question about when you said earlier about like texting and maintaining the relationship. So what I actually struggle with is I don't really like to respond to messages. I feel like it's a constant distraction for what I'm doing day by day. But also in the modern society, it's seen as like politeness, or you're on top of everything to be able to respond, to be very responsive. And especially if you make some friends or you have some business contact, if you don't respond in time, it's seen as you're not interested or you're not polite. So how should we deal with that? And just how should we deal with that?
If I was you, I would just do what you would like to do. If they're having expectations that you'll respond in a certain period of time, that's their expectations. They have to deal with it. It's not up to you to deal with it. In fact, if I know somebody has an expectation of me to reply in a certain time frame, I will elongate that longer and longer and longer. I've had a student occasionally, every once in a while, that they'll send me a message and then I don't reply, say like 4 hours later, they will write me like, "Where are you? Why haven't you replied?" And I see their message, and then I like wait 3, 4, 5 days to reply intentionally, because they're having a craving and an expectation, and there's no way that I can be a great teacher for them if they're not patient enough and they're putting expectations on me that I have to reply to them in a certain time frame. Because this person wants you to reply in 4 hours. This one is 2 hours. This one is 5 minutes. This one is something else. You can't keep all that straight in your mind. It's going to drive you crazy, right? So instead, just get free of all of that. And if people are getting angry because you're not replying in a certain time, that's on them. And if they start confronting you about it and they're like, hi, how come you haven't replied to me? Just say, oh, I'm doing something else. And don't even apologize, because once you apologize, it makes it sound like you've done something wrong, that you haven't done anything wrong. You're like, oh, I'm just doing something else. I was going to get to the message when I had an opportunity. And then just let them deal with it, because they're the ones who are causing their own anger in that situation. I know this goes against every social norm that you guys are used to, but that's the whole problem, is that people are stuck in these social norms and this cultural conditioning that they can't rise above it and see that this is just attachment. This is just craving. And as long as you stay stuck in that, you're never going to be able to rise above it and get free of all of that. Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am. I think it's already on.
So I was thinking exactly the same, but in my case, it's more about my family. It's not about the rest of the people, because I know they can wait, and yeah. But with my family, it's more like I'm traveling, I'm far away from home. So for me, in my mind, it's more like just a message, just to let them know that I'm alive and that I'm okay. But is that still like an attachment?
That you're sending to them, or they're wanting from you?
Both. I mean,
okay.
Because like I want to let them know that I'm okay. And for me, it's like, it's not that I will call them like every single day, but I want to let them know, I'm doing this, I'm okay. I know I'm far away from home, but I'm still okay.
What's the longest period of time you've gone without sending one of those?
Like 1 week and a half, maybe.
Okay. And how did you feel when you got to that 1.5 weeks? Did it feel uncomfortable for you?
Well, in that moment, no, because they knew that I was doing something, so I couldn't use my phone for a long time. Mm-hmm. But they knew I was in like safe place, Mm-hmm. But when I'm moving from country to country, mm-hmm. It's like, I just want to let you know I'm in this place now. I'm mm-hmm. okay.
Yeah. So what I would encourage you to do is try to elongate that more and more. And if you feel uncomfortable with it, that's all the more reason why to do it. Or if your family feels uncomfortable that you've gone 2 weeks or 3 weeks without contacting them, that's all the more reason to do it. That uncomfortableness that you might feel in that situation, or they might feel in that situation, it's coming from the craving, desire, attachment. And you're not going to actually solve it by replying in 1 week or giving them a notification every week. That doesn't solve their uncomfortableness. The problem that they're experiencing is the discontentedness. The cause of that problem is their craving. They're holding on to you. They're wanting to know things about you, and they're not going to be able to know those things permanently. So you can't solve any uncomfortableness that you have in your mind or their mind around this by just sending the messages all the time. You would like to elongate that time so it allows your mind and their mind to let go. And then in the future, when your mind is let go and you're peaceful and they're peaceful, and you can go 3 weeks, 4 weeks, a month, a year, whatever, without contacting them, then you'll know that, okay, if I'd like to contact them every once in a while, then I can. There's no reason why you have to contact your family every week or week and a half. It's not going to make things better. It's actually just keeping the craving, desire, attachment in place. And then if it's 1 week and 4 days that you haven't contacted them, now they maybe get uncomfortable. Or if it's 2 weeks, they get uncomfortable. That's the craving. And you can't help them to eliminate it by just continuing to feed it. So you would like to put some more and more space between your contact so that your mind and their mind gets more and more used to just letting go. And it may feel uncomfortable when you do it for yourself or for them, and that's all the more reason why to do it. You haven't learned the Four Noble Truths with me yet. I taught this on Monday, But when you understand what the problem is in the mind very clearly and the cause of that problem, you'll be able to see that just writing a message isn't solving anything. It's just keeping the problem in place because the craving is still there. The attachment is still there. Your mind and your family's mind hasn't let go yet. You know, there were times where I didn't contact my mom for like 3 years or 5 years. It's okay. You don't have to do that. I'm not suggesting you do that, but you know, it's okay. If you go a month or 2 or 3 without contacting your family, it's okay.
Okay, and do you think it could be like a real like feeling just to send a message without the attachment?
Say again.
I mean, like, it's just that I'm thinking, you said like you can wait like a week or 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
But what about if one day I feel like sending a message without an attachment, just to say hi?
Yeah, you do whatever you would like to do. There's no magical number. It's not like, okay, if you send a message at 2 weeks, it means you're attached. And if you send a message at 3 weeks, it means you're not attached. There's no magical number like that. But the fact that you're so used to sending messages and your family's so used to receiving them, if they stop, your family's probably going to be worried, right? It's kind of like a drug. If someone kept taking cocaine over and over and over again, if they stop taking cocaine, they're going to go a bit crazy. So the drug is, here's a message from your daughter to let you know I'm okay. And they keep getting that and getting that and getting that and getting that. But someday those messages are going to stop. Like, I don't know, something's going to happen where they're not going to be every week and a half. And now your family is going to be very upset. Their mind's going to be discontent. They're going to be very uncomfortable. So if I was you, I would slowly elongate this each week, more and more and more. Like now, if you've gone 1.5 weeks, try to make it 2 weeks and do that for a while, and then go to 3 weeks and do that for a while, and then do it for 4 weeks and do that for a while, and just slowly start elongating these messages longer and longer so that your mind and their mind gets completely comfortable with not expecting this message of an update of where you're at, including when you go to a new country. Mm-hmm.
I just want to add to that because I had real examples of what you said because my mom used to be very worried about me when I'm traveling outside doing solo trips. Mm-hmm. And she would sometimes I pick my phone, there's like 8 unresponsive calls or like 10. Mm-hmm. And I know she's in that panic mode of like trying to contact me.
Yep.
By not replying to her, am I forcing her to learn about these teachings and kind of solve the let go? Because I don't think she's there yet. And if I don't respond, I can imagine how worried, how angry, how settled she might come to Thailand to find me or something. So
yeah, you're not forcing her to learn the teachings. You can't force anybody to learn the teachings. You're creating an environment that allows her mind to let go. Do you understand that? You're creating an environment in which it allows her mind to let go. So like me drinking the Sprite from my son, that I didn't do anything wrong. I was just putting the Sprite up to my mouth, but I was creating an environment in which his mind was able to let go, right? I didn't force him to share it with me. He chose to share it with me. So the same thing is if you see someone blowing up your phone, I don't suggest you wait 6 months to contact your mom because she'll probably come to Thailand, right? But when you see her blowing up your phone, wait a day or 2 or 3 and show her that it's okay, that you're okay. Because if you reply right away, this is just keeping the craving in place. So you're not forcing her to practice these teachings. You're just creating an environment, you knowing the wisdom of this path, you knowing the wisdom of what's going on in her mind. The most loving and kind thing that you could ever do for somebody, the most compassionate thing you could ever do for somebody is help them to eliminate an attachment. Because now her mind's going to be more peaceful. Her mind's going to be more joyful. And then if she is reborn, she's going to be reborn in a better situation. And potentially she may even get to enlightenment at death or some other time, right? So the most loving and kind and compassionate thing you could do is help somebody eliminate an attachment. But because they're attached, in order to get through that attachment, they're going to have to walk through the fire to be able to appreciate the fresh air on the other side. She's going to have to walk through some painful feelings to let go of this daughter that she's now had for so long, right? There's no way for her to let go of her attachment without it being painful, because she's been holding on and getting pleasant feelings for so long. When she lets go, it's going to be painful for her. So you're just creating an environment in which it allows her mind to let go, but you're not forcing her to do anything. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You have a question? Yep.
Yes, I have a little question. Like, you said when you feel attracted to your future life partner, the moment you make decision, because she choose to be honest. But in our life, I think for most of situations, it's we don't like meet the extreme cases, like either a person super honest or super good about problem solving, or a drug dealer. Sometimes it's very like ambiguous.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they have very opposite personalities. I just want to know from your perspective, which kind of the quality you think it can last longer, like nothing is permanent, but when I made the decision, which quality you think I should make it as a priority, like put as a priority.
Yeah, these things that I just talked about, where like if somebody's practicing the 5 precepts, that's really helpful, right? So you need to learn the 5 precepts and know what those are. If somebody's understanding true love, which you may need to have some conversations with them, because you may not understand it yourself. So you might need to have some learning yourself, conversations with them yourself, all the things that I talked here. So it's not like I can say, okay, if they're an engineer, if they're a lawyer, if they have this much money or that much money, you need to look at these, you need to look at the person's mind and determine whether during this learning period, is this somebody that you can build a life with? And this is some guidance to be able to help you see the type of qualities to look for. And you might need to go back and listen to this again, or look at the slides more closely and take your time in reading, because there's some really important points here that you would like to look at this person's mind, but there's not like a set criteria that I could give you in terms of like hard skills. It's more of the soft skills like this, and understanding these kinds of things. So knowing that somebody is into wholesome things and they're interested, if there was one thing I was going to give you, here it is. Okay. If you can have a life partner that understands the problems that they're experiencing is not because of the outside world, it's because of their own decisions, and they're willing to grow and learn and develop and evolve as a human being, and they realize that they are a work in progress, excellent. But the likelihood of you finding that, like right off the street, it's very rare, right? Because they have to know the 4 Noble Truths. But if you can have somebody that understands that the outside world is not the problem, it's the inner world, and they realize they're a work in progress and they need to grow and evolve into a better and better human being, that will be really helpful, because they're not going to be blaming you for their problems, and they're going to know that they need to work on their own mind. But this is very rare. So that's why in the dating process, if you have a person that you're attracted to, whether it's physically or financially, emotionally, intellectually, or any other things, if you have that attraction and you're like, wow, I think I would like to really get to know this person, there's some things that you can do to kind of like ensure that they understand that they are a work in progress. Where like if they blame the taxi driver for their anger, you can say things, well, the taxi driver didn't cause you to be angry. That was because you wanted him to open your door for you and he didn't open the door. It's unwise to have an expectation. Let's not blame the taxi driver for our frustration, right? You can say these kinds of things in a skillful way that helps your partner or potential partner to see that it's not the taxi driver that's causing his anger or her anger, right? So there's things like this that you can be doing through the learning process. but you need to know the teachings really well yourself, which I think that's where you're at. You're still in the process of learning the teachings. So I would suggest you focus on that first, is really learning the teachings yourself. That's that first one that I talked about, acquiring wisdom.
Like, at least I know more about what you mean about the outside world. Because normally,
I'm sorry, I'm having trouble hearing you.
I mean, at least I know more about what you mean about the outside world. Because normally the person I met super polite to the like taxi drivers, but maybe the outside world is it's all about like a society situation, the economy situation, all of the things. I think I need to be like, I have the wisdom to figure it out.
People who are non-practitioners and people who are unenlightened that don't understand these teachings will typically go around complaining about the world a lot. This is typically what you hear, right? People just complain about the world and how terrible the world is, completely unaware that all those problems are within their own mind. So pay attention to those kinds of things, because if you hear people complaining about the world a lot, they have a lot of cravings, they have a lot of expectations, and you're not going to meet their expectations either. Eventually, you're going to stop meeting their expectations and they're going to be complaining about you. So a complainer is somebody who has a lot of expectations and a lot of craving. And they don't understand that the problem's not the outside world. Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do then is just end class here. I realize we've gone over a little bit. We've been going over kind of each day, I think, a little bit, which is fine with me. I'll spend whatever amount of time you guys have with each other. But as you see, some students just get up and leave if they have something to do. So feel free to do that anytime you like when you're learning. If you have something else you need to do, feel free to go do that. But as long as people have questions and you guys are interested in talking, I'll make myself available to help you. So what we're going to be doing tomorrow is we actually have this topic of the path to enlightenment, practicing the path in the workplace. I'm going to share that with you after we do our meditation. And then after that, and that's a pretty short topic, and then I have this other short topic to share with you, the art of the friendly no, how to say no without saying no, because the unenlightened mind doesn't typically like to hear the word no. So if somebody's inviting you to something and you say no, like in a work environment, like if they're having a housewarming party and you say no, I can't come, oftentimes they're going to get painful feelings and they're going to attribute it to you. And I'm going to give you some suggestions of how to navigate the world where you can say no without saying no. This will be a really short topic to teach you. Typically tomorrow, we're done by lunchtime. And usually a lot of times the students like to go out to lunch afterwards. If you guys would like to have a nice group lunch somewhere, I can give you guys some suggestions if you guys would like to go out. But we'll probably finish up at lunchtime tomorrow. So if you guys would like to plan other things in the afternoon, or if you'd like to plan to go out as a class to have a nice lunch together, we can do that as well. But these are the two topics that I'm going to share with you guys. And we'll probably be done even by 11 o'clock. We'll have a nice early lunch. So thank you guys for your questions. Thank you for the discussion. It's been nice to share with you guys up to this point. Tomorrow we have a few more things to talk about, and then we'll go from there. So have a lovely evening, and we'll see you next time. Okay? Take care. Bye-bye.